Hello there, and welcome to episode 6 of the Dudes Being Guys Sports Podcast.
Just guys being dudes.
My name is Marco Yerkovich, and joining me, as always, is Easton Nelson.
What's up, guys?
Colton Deneen will be joining us shortly, but Easton, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we'll be discussing Patrick Mahomes and Ryan Fitzpatrick's impressions, the Patriots making a surprise trade, our college football and NFL picks for this week, and Jimmy Butler demanding a trade.
All right, before we begin, I would just like to remind everyone to please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content. All right, Easton, let's get right into it with Mahomes and the Chiefs winning a shootout in Pittsburgh. Your thoughts, is Patrick Mahomes for real?
As of right now, yes. 6 touchdowns. He looked amazing against the Steelers, which don't have the best defense, but it's still a good Steelers team, which is one of the best teams in the AFC North. And throwing 6 touchdowns just alone is impressive, no matter who the team is against. I mean,
yeah, it's the most touchdowns since Drew Brees threw 7 in 2013.
And it's only his, third?
It's his third
start?
NFL start.
Third start.
This is his second of the year, and then he had one in Week 17 in Denver, which was like, the dead week before the playoffs. So it really didn't matter. But it's so impressive what he's doing. He didn't have a ton of yards, but he was 23 for 28, so super accurate. And he commanded that offense. And, of course, you have Andy Reid calling the plays. And he has so many weapons. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce. And he's able to use it, and he's calm under pressure. I'm just so impressed with how he's handling all this.
Yeah, I wasn't a believer in Mahomes right away. I mean, all he really had going for him was his arm, really. I mean,
yeah, he was just a gunslinger from Texas Tech. What defenses did he really face in the Big 12? How did Cliff Kingsbury's offense really prepare him for the NFL? But he's just so talented. He can read defenses well. He doesn't take a lot of risks. I mean, sure, Andy Reid is kind of building this offense to obviously more to his strengths, but he's just handled everything that's been thrown at him so far very, very well, honestly. Yeah. I'm just so impressed with him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I hope he does really well.
So this leads us obviously to the very next conclusion. As soon as a team has a decent quarterback, are they Super Bowl contenders?
No. The Chiefs don't have the defense. Although they have been keeping up, or at least it seems they've been keeping up, they just don't have enough to go into the playoffs and keep that depth that they used to have a couple years back, which was probably one of the best defensive teams then. But their offense is definitely good enough, I think, but their defense won't.
Yeah, they're missing Derek Thomas, Tamba Ali, Don Terry Poe. They're just missing a lot of those stalwarts
Marcus
on defense.
Peters.
Yeah, Marcus Peters, a big one.
Yeah.
Big loss. Although they got
Sean Smith.
Sammy Watkins back from. Yeah, Sean Smith. But honestly, I kind of disagree with you. I think the way they've been just running teams out of the building, sure, they gave up like 37 to the Steelers, and they gave up a lot to the Chargers, those are both really good teams in the AFC, contenders in their own right. But I think they can be contenders because they don't really have a super tough schedule, and they have some guaranteed wins in the West. I'm sure they can beat the Chargers again. I'm 100% sure they can beat both the Broncos and the Raiders at least once. I think they could probably get a bye in the playoffs. So I don't think they're necessarily going to make it to the Super Bowl because there's better teams in the AFC, but I think they are a contender just based on how prolific their offense has been so far.
I think they'll be a playoff team, but not necessarily
for sure.
a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I see that. I think as you said, their defense is really going to be a weakness for them, and I don't know if when it comes playoff time, when teams are locking down, if there's a quarter or two where the offense really doesn't get things going, they could fall behind big in a game because of their defense.
All right. So moving on to that, with the opponent that they played this Sunday, the Steelers, are they a mess?
Big time. Probably one of the messiest teams in a season so far that we've ever seen. So tumultuous. And it's strange.
Love it.
I love it too, but it's so strange to see it from like a Godfather franchise of the NFL. The Steelers have been, with the Rooney family at the helm, have been a model of consistency in the NFL, have the most Super Bowls, constantly making it to the playoffs, are never bad, but this is so strange to see. Just some examples.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, obviously not showing up to anything really. He's off his roster now. Did you see that?
Yeah, he's in Miami partying.
Probably
hanging out. Yeah, that's what he's doing right now. I'm not joking.
Yeah, and then there's the Antonio Brown not showing up to practice, which I don't think is as big as other people think it is, but I mean, it's still controversial, and it doesn't make the
Yeah,
organization
well,
look
it's
very good.
also well, first, okay, there's three things that Antonio Brown has done that whether or not you want to connect them all, you can do that, but even not having these things connected it still looks bad. So he threatened a sports reporter last week, but then he apologized, right? Then he didn't show up to practice, as you mentioned, but that could be a symptom of another tweet that he responded to, which was from the former PR manager for the Steelers, who I think retired a year or two ago. He said that Antonio Brown is nothing because Big Ben makes him who he is. So he responded to that with trade me, see what happens, right? So I think all those things together, that's another huge mess. And then, of course, Big Ben basically forcing the Steelers to get rid of Todd Haley as the offensive coordinator, and he's now the coordinator in Cleveland. So just an enormous mess.
Yeah, and I think it was Max Kellerman that said this, that Big Ben isn't an elite quarterback anymore. He's a good quarterback. And I think I agree with that. I mean, last year he struggled really bad at the beginning of the season. He even almost retired. And it looks, I guess, against the Chiefs he wasn't really that bad, but that first game he threw, 4 interceptions?
Yeah, when he was playing a tough defense.
Tough defense, yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he is an average quarterback right now, just with elite talent. I mean, obviously he has Le'Veon Bell, but yeah, a lot of weapons. Even at tight end, which I would assume to be their weakest spot. Well, they have Jesse James starting, and I think he's a top 10 tight end. Yeah. He had, I think, a record receiving day. He had 8 catches for 139 yards, career high. But then, of course, that receiving core is probably one of the best in the NFL. And I think you're right. Big Ben, whether he's not making the team worse, but I think, for instance, if Patrick Mahomes was on the Steelers, I think they would be better than they are now with Big Ben. Not to say that Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback right now, situationally or in team management, but just in talent. In talent, hypothetical talent, I think Patrick Mahomes is better than Big Ben right now.
And he has James Conner, who isn't Le'Veon Bell, but he's not a bad running back by any means.
Yeah, also Roosevelt Nix, their fullback, was a Pro Bowler, Can't discount the fullbacks.
Was their long snapper one too?
So do you think that, are the Steelers favorites to win the AFC North anymore?
No. And I think you know where I'm going to go with this. And this is not biased at all, but this is truly how I feel. I think the Bengals are going to win the NFC North, or the AFC North, sorry. The way that they put 34 points each game, which they got 0 in the first 2 games last year, which was really frustrating. But their offense looks like it's come back to 2015 when they had Sanu, Marvin Jones, AJ Green.
They started 8-0. That was really impressive. They looked really good.
Although I think they might lose these next 2 games, which they play the Panthers and the Falcons. But
that's tough.
That's
really
tough. But I think that they can pull it out, and I think they'll be the team at the top of the AFC North.
I think that's actually not terrible, but I think the problem is the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals are all going to, kind of like the SEC West below Alabama, they're all going to cannibalize each other, each get 1-1 against each other. I think the Steelers are going to prevail. Even though I don't know if they're at their strongest right now, I think they're still better than all the other teams in the AFC North. But if problems like these continue, you never know. You could definitely be right. So moving on to another team that's kind of surprising in the AFC, but for a different reason, we have Ryan Fitzmagic striking gold in Tampa Bay. So can Ryan Fitzpatrick keep his job when Jameis Winston returns?
I think he should, but I don't know if the coaching staff is gonna let him. I just have a feeling that they're gonna start Jameis Winston back just because of the name. But does Ryan Fitzpatrick do this every other year? I swear he has a good season and then he's bad, and then he has a great season.
In 2015, he was really good with the Jets.
Then he was.
Yeah. He demanded that big contract, and they laughed him out of the building. It's
his beard. That's why he's doing so well.
Have you seen his post-game press? He looks like Conor
McGregor. He wore Deshaun Jackson's suit.
Yeah, it looks.
And his chains.
I like it. He's got some swagger, and he clearly has the team behind him. And with the turmoil and just misfortune that Jameis Winston has caused the franchise, obviously, if this was just some third-string player, they would have released Jameis Winston after 1 or even 2 of these incidents.
He's a mess.
But the tumultuous history that this guy has as just being a decent human being, honestly is enough to just release him now,
He's like Johnny
whether you
Manziel.
have Fitzpatrick or not.
He's like I don't know, not worse, but about the same as Johnny Manziel, just a mess with everything. Like,
He has terrible character.
yeah.
Not
somebody you
someone,
want you on your team.
not someone you want leading your
Leading your
franchise
team.
as your quarterback.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have to decide this offseason if they pick up the last year of his rookie deal. They're gonna owe him $16 million, and if they're gonna extend him big time, they're gonna owe him $80 to $90 million, and they're gonna commit to him for the next half decade.
Yeah. So, do you think that the Buccaneers can challenge the NFC South?
Well, in almost any other division, I would say that the Buccaneers could be challengers. But honestly, even with this surge they're having right now, they're probably still going to finish last or maybe third. They could probably beat out the Panthers, but the Falcons and Saints are legitimate Super Bowl contenders right now. So I'm not
It's
really
a tough
sure.
division.
Yeah, I'm
Probably probably the toughest actually.
right now with the way Tampa Bay's playing.
Maybe,
It's the toughest division.
Either that or the NFC North, maybe.
NFC
I don't
North
know.
or the Yeah, actually, this is the toughest division of
Yeah.
football. So I don't think they're contenders. I really don't think they're close. But I mean, anything can happen if they keep winning and Fitzpatrick stays the starter. And their run defense is second in the NFL. You know, they've been so bad for so many years. They're stockpiling all these high draft picks: Gerald McCoy, Levante David, Vernon Hargraves. They have a tremendous defense right now, and they're getting those offensive pieces to work together. And now they have a quarterback that's working in the system. So the Buccaneers could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
So I guess that this kind of leads us to the last point. Is Jameis Winston the right franchise quarterback for Tampa Bay? We've
No.
kind of discussed this.
No. I think it was last year. I thought it was gonna be his breakout year, and I thought he was gonna be possibly in the running for MVP, which I was definitely wrong about. But he's just not somebody, like we said. His character's terrible.
He's not even that
he's
good
not,
a player.
Yeah, he's not that good.
Especially not a good enough player to make up for the actions that he
yes.
does off the
And
field.
I just don't think the front office will allow this go on for very much longer. I mean, Fitzpatrick, if he keeps this up, he could be their franchise quarterback, and he's done a lot more than Jameis has ever done for them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's move on to the next point. The Patriots traded for Josh Gordon from the Cleveland Browns, and they signed free agent cornerback and special teamer Cyrus Jones. So right now, is Josh Gordon worth the risk for the Patriots?
Yes, and I say that because it's not a drug-related or substance abuse or whatever it used to be his problem, or it could still be his problem, but we don't know. But he's probably going to be their best wide receiver besides Julian Edelman. I mean, Tom Brady can always make the wide receivers look good, even though they're not very known.
Right, I bet he's really happy right now. He has
he's
a
gonna
solid threat. And honestly, I don't think this is a risk. You were looking at it from the Josh Gordon angle, but also from what the Browns got back. I mean, the Patriots only had to give up a fifth-round pick,
Yeah.
and if he doesn't play more than 10 games, which he's already missed too,
They don't have to pay it or what?
they get a 7th-round pick back, which, I mean, is not a lot to anyone, but hey, to Bill Belichick, you know, that could be something.
It's a player.
It's a player, you know. So you never know. So I don't think the Patriots took any risk in doing this. If anything, this is going to be one of those trades that the Patriots do that you're going to look back and you're going to say, why didn't anyone else do this? This is also the 29th transaction in the offseason, just this offseason, that involves wide receivers for the Patriots.
Really?
It's insane how much movement there's been in their wide receiver core. It's completely different from last year or even 2 years ago. So we'll see if Josh Gordon can become...
Speaking of wide receivers, why hasn't Des Bryant got picked up yet?
Well, you know, I think he's just...
His character too, just like
yeah,
Jameis
and also
Winston.
he's just too needy. I don't know.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
he's actually not as good as he used to
Oh
be.
yeah, I know that.
He really
but-
struggled creating separation last
Yeah,
year.
he's definitely lost. I mean, he was never
He
the
lost a step.
fastest, but
Yeah. So that's for another time, as we always say.
Yep.
So
Put on a t-shirt.
do you think the Browns made a mistake trading away Josh Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, not on the podcast, but just us talking. Out of all the things that he has done, this is what you get rid of him
this
for?
is
I
really
mean, come on.
This is where you draw the line.
Yeah. Like,
Tugging your hamstring at a promotional shoot.
I mean, I understand it's a Friday night, you got a game on Sunday. You shouldn't be out doing this stuff, but I mean, is it really that bad? Like,
No, yeah, he would have missed 2 to 4 weeks.
yeah.
honestly, and he's a dangerous wide receiver. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people forget because I think in an ESPN article I read, he's only played in 46% of the games he's been eligible to play in.
Really.
He's missed 2 full seasons, both
From
not really for
suspension.
injury. Yeah, for suspension. And people forget, and I guess we'll see, because we saw some stuff in the preseason, but he's still a very dangerous wide receiver. And a
Mhm.
5th-round pick, as we said, for the Patriots. I don't think the Browns got enough back,
No.
honestly, especially if he turns out to be an important piece in a potentially Super Bowl team in the Patriots, or even a deep playoff run for the Patriots. People are going to look back and say, why would they give him away, and why would they give him away
Yeah.
for just a 5th
I hope-
rounder?
I hope he can figure his life out and never get in trouble for substances again. I mean, he's
Because he's a
he's a
talented player.
great wide receiver.
Yeah, so with that, I think the Patriots made a good improvement. They also got Cyrus Jones as a free agency signing. He's a cornerback that he can definitely help address that need for the Patriots. He's also a very talented punt returner, returned 5 punts for touchdowns at Alabama.
Who was the punt returner for the Patriots before this?
I assume they had Chris Hogan or Cordero Patterson back there.
Patterson. He's good.
Someone. He's a good kick returner, but yeah. And honestly, I think Jones, he's a very talented punt returner, but I think he's going to be more important as a cornerback addition because let's be real, Patriots fans and NFL fans, Eric Rowe is not the answer at cornerback for the Patriots. So this is a really important pickup. I think this has gone under the radar and it will continue to. And I just kind of picked up on this and I thought this is going to be really important for the Patriots in the future. So with that, let's move on to our Week 3 NFL Power Rankings.
All right, at number 5, I'm going with the hype train. I have the Buccaneers.
Oh my, are you serious?
Yes,
dude.
This is just this week.
Fine.
This is not 2 weeks down the line when they're 2-2. I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
But
jeez.
I mean, this offense has looked insane.
I know, but this is so reactionary. You're being such a prisoner of the
I almost
moment.
put the Bengals on here.
That's worse.
No. It makes more sense.
Fine.
To me, but
fine, keep going.
I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been amazing. Same with Deshaun Jackson, which is the number 1 wide receiver target. But like I said earlier, I swear Ryan Fitzpatrick has a good year, then a bad year. So we'll see how that keeps up going on to next year. But I think the Bucs will settle down in a couple weeks and probably not make the playoffs like we were saying. But
you never know. All right.
Yeah.
So my number 5 is the Minnesota Vikings. One of the best defenses in the NFL. They got a solid Week 1 win against the 49ers. Looked very dominant. Struggled with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, but who wouldn't? They pushed. They got a tie out of it, and they're going to continue to get better. And I assume when they play the Packers at US Bank Stadium, they'll get the W. So that's who I have at 5.
Yeah. Well, at number 4, I have the Vikings. So they did play the Packers last weekend, which is always a tough opponent with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And to be honest, if it wasn't for their kicker, they probably wouldn't have lost that, which they fixed with getting one of the best kickers in Dan Bailey, which I kind of forgot.
I can't believe they released Daniel Carson so quickly. They wasted a 5th-round pick on him, and the Patriots just got Josh Gordon for a 5th-round pick.
I mean, I swear the Vikings never have a good kicker. Like Blair Walsh.
Blair Walsh cost them a trip to the Super Bowl.
Dude,
Kai
I can't
Forbath
believe
was
that still.
just
he's a definition of a garbage can.
Yeah. So and that's who you.
I mean, Dan Bailey. What? He's 88% on his career.
Yeah,
isn't
that the highest percentage in NFL history? Yeah, that's really impressive. So at 4, I'm even changing this list up right now. I'm not even going with what I've written down because this is such a fluid list, and there's so many great teams, and I'm leaving good teams out, but I don't care. At 4, I have the Saints, the New Orleans Saints. Tremendous offense, and they're doing this all without Mark Ingram, who is their lead rusher from last year. They still have Alvin Kamara, who's more the receiving back, but he's a speedy runner, and they have Michael Thomas, who's going to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver, and of course, Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Brees. The defense is a little shaky right now, but they've played some high-powered offenses, and they'll get it totally under control. Marcus Lattimore and I can't think of the defensive lineman for them right now, but they're
the end.
Yeah.
Oh, what is his name?
I don't know.
Cameron Jordan.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, they have a talented defense. They'll get it under control. So, who do you have at 3?
At number 3, another hype train. I have the Chiefs. I don't know if you agree with this one or not, but, I mean, Mahomes has played amazing. his targets and Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins are. I mean, I thought Sammy Watkins was kind of a bust for a while.
You
And
thought he was washed up?
I didn't think he's washed up because, I mean, he's not old yet, but I just thought he wasn't as good as we all thought he was going to be in college. And, I mean, yes, their defense doesn't look that good on paper, but they've kept up pretty decently. I mean, they're not a great defense, but they're not terrible like we all thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. So I have them at 3.
All right, so at number 3, I have the New England Patriots. Tough loss to the Jaguars, but Bill Belichick is barely over 500 in the last few years in September. He uses it almost as preseason with his starting lineups. And we saw, like, the year they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they got stomped by the Chiefs in week 1, opening night, like Sunday night football, right? Prime time. And honestly, what we've learned is Bill Belichick just kind of uses this time to, like, learn and kind of just look from afar. I don't even think he's really using his full playbook
Kind of
right
like
now.
the Warriors in the regular season.
Yeah. To that extent, but obviously not as good.
Yeah.
But I think, especially this will be good for the Patriots. A couple losses in September and October puts them not under the radar, but as soon as that 16-0 hype dies down, I think it's better. Or not, they didn't have that this year, but last year it really helped them to kind of get on track and get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this year, I think they're maybe not as talented, but best coach and best quarterback in the NFL. That's got to count for something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have them on my list, so
That's
I don't
okay.
know how you feel.
So who do you have it to?
At number 2, I have the Jaguars, the people that beat your Patriots. But it's down to them and the Rams who has the best defense in the NFL. I mean, I think I'm going to choose the Jaguars in that just because I think their secondary is a little bit better. But it seemed like they shut down the Patriots, even though the score was a little bit closer. But it didn't seem like the Patriots were ever in control or knew what they were really doing against them. And, I mean, their defense is elite. Their offense is good for what they have. I mean, they have Blake Bortles as their quarterback, which I don't know what you think about him, but
Yeah, kind of a mess.
So
that's a solid pick. So at 2, at any point in this list, I was either gonna put Jacksonville because of their defense or KC because of their offense. And just right now, I'm feeling it. I'm putting KC at 2.
I'm not
Their
the only
offense
one, then.
could have the potential to rival like that 2007 Patriots offense or that 2013 Broncos offense. So some of the greatest offenses of all time.
Yep.
They are putting up points and yards at a rate that we've only seen from those two teams. And honestly, whatever their defense can get, a couple stops or force some field goals, they'll just continue to run away with the game. One of the most impressive offensive showings I've seen. And honestly, yeah, it's easy to put them at 2.
Yep. And at number 1, I have the Los Angeles Rams. They have, like I said, top 2 defense, and their offense is better than the Jaguars. So that's why I have them at number 1. But, I mean, as I said it many times, they're my Super Bowl pick for this year. I don't know how many people agree with me, but
I think a lot, especially after these first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they've been dominant, especially on the defensive side.
So I'll kind of butt in here. I also have them at number 1. Just their defense, even if you just look at the names, it's insane. This team has Pro Bowl potential, and if not Pro Bowl, at least just all-star, superstar potential at every position except for linebacker. I mean, even from the coach, the defensive coordinator, the punter, the kicker, the punt returner.
The long snapper.
I mean, this team is absolutely loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long it'll last after this year because it's all one-year contracts, but it's a fun experiment. You know, it's
I
like
like them.
if the Warriors not only signed DeMarcus Cousins, but they also signed LeBron and a couple other guys. I mean, Jimmy Butler's looking for a destination. Golden State wouldn't be too bad. I mean, this team is like a Pro Bowl roster, if I'm going to be real with you.
Yeah,
outside
agree.
of linebacker,
agree,
it's
yeah.
insane. So, yeah.
So
those are our power rankings. So let's get on with our picks. First up, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons, Sunday at noon on Fox.
I have the Falcons. The Saints struggled against the Browns last week, which it's still the Browns to me.
They'll be all right. They're 2-0 if they have a field goal kicker.
I know, but just losing to the Browns just still doesn't sound right to me. And when you're the Saints, and I think you overall have a better team than them on both sides, I feel like they should have been able to win that game. But the Falcons had a really good game last weekend, and I just think their offense and defense is better than the Saints.
Yeah, the Falcons are 1-1. I was gonna put them at 5 on my power rankings, but they are just riddled with injury. They lost Devontae Freeman for a
Oh,
couple
yeah,
of
that's
weeks,
right.
and Neal, the safety,
And
right?
Deion Jones.
Yeah, both out for the season, I believe.
Do they still have Telvin Coleman?
Yes, Tevin Coleman. He starred in their win against the Panthers last week.
Yes.
He's a solid, replacement, and he's even a dual back with Freeman at times. But I think overall you're correct. The Saints have more firepower right now. I think they're overall the better team. Their defense will step up. So I have the Saints as well.
I had the Falcons.
Oh, you had the Falcons in
Yes.
that one? Well, I've got the Saints. I guess, difference of opinion. So next up we have, in probably a more defensive battle, we have the Denver Broncos at the Baltimore Ravens Sunday at noon on CBS.
I have the Ravens after they just got destroyed. Not actually. They got beat by the Bengals.
They got beat by the Bengals. It looked like they were going to get destroyed.
Yeah, it did at the first half. But we'll never talk about that right now. But that was on Thursday, so they have an extra long break because what?
It's a 10-day break.
10-day break. So they're going to be really rested up, and I think that the Ravens, their defense, will be able to hold the Broncos' offense, which isn't really that good, to be honest.
The Case Keenum, led Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I've got the Baltimore Ravens. I love watching the Baltimore Ravens just for the times when Lamar Jackson's in at quarterback and you have to see, Joe Flacco trot out to wide receiver and just stand there and watch his
he definitely doesn't
his
like
replacement.
That. He definitely doesn't like that.
No, he doesn't like it, but I love watching it happen.
Yeah, it's funny.
Joe Flacco's the definition of mediocrity, and he won a Super Bowl because he had a good defense. And he's got another very solid defense here, and they're a dark horse playoff contender. So I have the Baltimore Ravens winning. So next up, we have the Battle of Los Angeles with the Chargers visiting the Rams Sunday at 3 o'clock on CBS.
Is this going to be considered a rivalry down the line, do you think?
I think yeah.
I think so, too.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, but in this, I have the Rams. I think it's going to be a really close game and not very high scoring because they both have really good defenses. But I think the Rams have a better offense than the Chargers, and I think that'll be the difference, and they'll pull out with the win.
The Chargers are going to be the best team in Week 3 that are 1-2. They're going to be far and above all those other 1-2 teams. The Rams, I don't think they're going to scorch them, but they're going to beat them pretty.
Close.
I think I don't know. Close. The Chargers have a really solid defense. They just don't have 7 Pro Bowlers that were Pro Bowlers at one time, which is insane, by the way, that the Rams have that. But yeah, Rams, no question. All so right. Moving on to our last pick, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, also known as the NFL soap opera, against the Fitzmagic-led Buccaneers Monday night, 7:15 on ESPN.
I have the Buccaneers. And I don't know if this is just me hating the Steelers or me on the hype with the Buccaneers, but they've been one of the best offenses in the NFL right now. That's the Buccaneers, by the way. But Ryan Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Jackson have shown that they're a great duo, quarterback and receiver duo. And with
75-yard opening touchdown.
Yeah.
That was wild.
With the mess that we talked about earlier with the Steelers, I just think it's too much for them at the moment, and I think the Bucs will come out with a win.
About maybe 15 to 20 days ago, I probably would have slapped you for saying that.
Yeah. I would have picked the Steelers.
You know what? And I've been teetering back and forth as I have with all these picks, except for the Rams one. These are all really close, good games, but I think you're right. I got to go with the Buccaneers. I don't know. I thought Fitzmagic would wear out. First of all, I didn't think it would happen in Week 1. I thought it would wear out in Week 2. And the Steelers' defense is just leaking all over the place. Gosh. And if the offense can't get anything going, or at least have a slow start like they did against the Chiefs, the Buccaneers are going to run away with this one. So those are our picks for the NFL. So,
all right, let's get on to Alabama. They dominated Ole Miss in a historic rout. So do you think anybody can stop Bama's offense?
No. The simple answer is no. They're one of the most... This offense already has made history. They have their first 3 games scoring 50-plus points. That's the first time an SEC team has ever done that. I mean, the SEC's been around for 70 or 80 years, and with the amount of teams they've had, I mean, that's just pretty wild. I mean, and it's not like they've played slouches either. Ole Miss is not a great team, but they're an SEC team, and Louisville is a solid Power 5 team. So that's pretty wild. So do you think, could this be one of the greatest offenses of all time in
Yeah,
college football?
I think so, and I think it has to do with Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts. They can sub each other out, and they all have their specialties. And if one's struggling, the other one can get in, and they can help out the whole offense. I mean, their receivers are amazing. Their offensive line's amazing. I mean, there's not really a weak point in their offense, to be honest.
You're totally right. If one of them is struggling, which Tua is the starter, we haven't seen him struggle yet. But if he does, Jalen Hurts can step in. He's 26-2 as a starter, which is absolutely phenomenal. So, and what you said, they have the best wide receiver core in the country by far. They're easily the best. Obviously, that cattle of running backs, probably one of the best in the country. Obviously, the literal Crimson Tide, which is their offensive line, no one can stop this offense. So, but we talked about Hurts and Tua sharing time. So what this will lead me to is, will them sharing time hurt Tagovailoa's Heisman chances?
I think so, because he's not getting as many opportunities as other people that are in the Heisman race, because his minutes aren't going to be as much as them. So his stats are going to be a little bit worse. And I mean, when it comes to Heisman, it's basically who has the best stats and who had led their team to the most wins and whatever. And Tua Tagovailoa is going to struggle with that, I think.
He's not going to have as many stats because Alabama's already going to be so far ahead that Hurts is going to play a lot. And even Mac Jones, the third stringer, has a ton of playtime. He doesn't have a lot of pass attempts because he's been playing hand the ball off to a running back. But even he's played a lot. So I think Tagovailoa, because they're going to be winning games by so much, he's not going to have a lot of time. But then those voters will have to look and say, well, he's got less stats, or his stats are lower because his team has been so dominant and assertive in how they attack other teams. So I don't think his chances are going to be hurt at all. So with that, let's bring in Colton Deneen. How are you doing today, Colton?
I'm doing good, guys. How about you?
All right, so let's continue on with our college football stories. So basically right now we've got some historic failures for some big name programs under new coaches. So are the Cornhuskers failing right now under Scott Frost?
Honestly, I don't think they are. They're an extremely young team trying to find out who they are. I mean, they're starting a true freshman quarterback in Adrian Martinez. He got injured the first game at Colorado, and then they started a walk-on, Andrew Bunch, out of a community college. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the beginning, but I think they'll find their way with a little more experience, especially with Martinez running the offense.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. They're not a failure yet. I mean, I feel like if they would have played Akron that first week, they would have been more prepared to play Colorado and then more prepared to play Troy. Although Colorado and Troy aren't just easy teams to beat. I mean, they've looked really well. They played really well against the other teams that they've played.
Yeah,
so.
Colorado's a solid Power 5 team, and people forget Troy was 11-2 last season.
They beat LSU.
Went into Death Valley at night, beat LSU. So, and they're a solid team, a team that when they play SEC teams creates a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you said, Andrew Bunch was playing. He's a walk-on from a community college. I don't know from
Scottsbluff.
Yeah, it's like
Community
Scottsdale, something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, with they have a terrible offensive line. I'm just gonna say that, but
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
protection.
it's not looking pretty
it's not
right
good.
now.
But
Although, I'll say this. You know who has a worse offensive line than Nebraska?
The Bengals.
No. Florida State.
yes,
The Bengals. Florida State's offensive line is garbage. They're being led by first-year head coach Willie Taggart. DeAndre Francois, honestly, has no protection. He is one of the most exposed players in college football.
I want to like him. I want to like him a lot.
He's going to get
Francois
sacked a lot.
he's a solid player, but
Yeah.
he's got no protection. And this defense doesn't tackle. I watched the game against Samford, and they're just throwing guys near players. They're not form tackling. They're an absolute mess. They have no drive, no motivation, and they don't look intense or into the game at all. They, of course, lost to Syracuse this Saturday for the first time since 1966.
Wow.
I mean, this team
They got pounded.
should have lost to Samford. Samford just blew it down the stretch. But, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? This team is in a far worse situation than Nebraska is right now.
Yeah, I definitely think right now Florida State's a failure. They got spanked by Virginia Tech and Syracuse. I mean, yeah, they beat Samford, but they were losing at one point.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, they've fallen off so fast. I mean, what was it, 3, 4 years ago? Were they
Yeah.
in the?
Yeah, they won the title.
They won the title. Yeah.
Well, no, that
No, they
was
were in
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
5 years ago they won the title, and then 4 years ago
They were in the playoffs.
in the first playoff they made it, but then got drilled by Oregon.
I remember
Jameis
that.
Winston
Jameis Winston,
had a terrible
Mariota.
game. He's
Yeah.
continuing
Mariota
that
went
trend.
off.
I know, I remember that. But I mean, they just look atrocious. I mean, I don't know the last time I've used that word, but I mean, like you said, Francois, I like him. He doesn't have the protection that he needs, and yeah, the Florida State doesn't look good. I mean, they got spanked by, like you said,
Syracuse and
Syracuse
Virginia
and-
Tech. So
yeah.
in their season, so they've played Virginia Tech, FCS Samford, not Stanford Cardinals, Samford Bulldogs, and Syracuse. They've been leading this season for 4 minutes and 14 seconds. All of that, the final 4 minutes and 14 seconds of the game against Samford.
They're not gonna make a bowl game.
No, not even close.
Just look at the rest of their schedule.
their
Yeah,
schedule
it just
is
gets tougher.
brutal.
These should have
It's-
been 2 easy games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they still have yet to play Miami, Clemson, and Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can't discount teams like Wake Forest is still on their schedule. Louisville's still on their schedule. Those aren't easy outs for them
Mm-mm.
either.
Boston College is rated for the first
Yep.
time in forever too.
Yeah, number 23 overall.
like they're
so,
no slouch.
yeah, Florida State's really going to struggle. So let's move into our Week 4 playoff picture. We didn't do this last week. We did it 2 weeks ago. So I think we'll rotate between this and the Heisman watch.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we start with your 6th and 5th team, quick, Colton?
For number 6, I have Oklahoma. They've been doing fantastic this year. I think they'll still be doing good. But right now I have them at 6 because I have LSU at 5. And they've won 2 huge games. So they have that under their belt, which pushes them over Oklahoma for me.
At number 6, I have Auburn. Their loss to LSU is a reason for me that they won't get into the playoffs because, I mean, to get in the playoffs, you really almost have to go undefeated. But I think their team's good enough to make it, but they just won't because of that loss. And then at number 5, I have Ohio State, which to me, I think they'll eventually lose a game to somebody, which I don't know who yet. But with all the drama with Urban Meyer and I just don't think they're as good as they've been in the past years. So I don't think they'll make it. So that's who I have at 5.
Okay, yeah, I totally see that. So at right now at number 6, I have LSU. I think they're a really solid team.
Mhm.
Obviously, that win against Auburn is going to prove a lot of people wrong. And they, honestly, with Joe Burrow, obviously he's not going to be mixed up with All-American quarterbacks. He's not going to be put in that discussion. But he's a legitimate game manager and a guy that can make some throws that LSU hasn't had since
Yeah.
Nick
They've had
Saban was the
no
head coach.
quarterbacks
Yeah.
for a long,
So yeah,
long time.
they really haven't had a lot of good quarterbacks. So and then at number 5, I have Oklahoma. Kyler Murray is an instant Heisman candidate. This offense really has just picked up right where they left off. Rodney Anderson's out for the season, injured his knee against UCLA. But Trey Sermon and Sutton, they're going to keep things going there. And they honestly, their defense has improved so much better from last season. So I think Oklahoma's a legit threat in the Big 12. So 4 through 3.
4 through 3, I have Ohio State at 4 with Urban Meyer coming back. He'll rally that team together and get the big push that they need to get into the playoffs. And number 3, I have Clemson. They've been in it, all but the first year.
Yeah, all but the first year.
Dabo Swinney at the helm, being their coach, they're for sure going to make the playoffs unless they get a big upset loss.
Mm-hmm. All right, at number 4, I have Oklahoma. I really like this team. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. Kyler Murray is a monster. I mean, my God. But their offense is just as good, if not better, than last year, as well as an improved defense, like you said. So I think if they don't, I mean, the Big 12, is not as good as some other conferences.
Lacks
So
some defense a little bit.
Yeah. But I think if they don't lose a game in the Big 12, that they can make it.
Oh, if they go undefeated, they're for sure in.
Mhm.
And now that the Big 12, of course, has a conference championship game, if they go 13-0, they're in for sure. So I mean, they made it in 12-1, and they just passed what was their biggest roadblock last year, which they lost to Iowa State.
Mhm.
So they've overcome that. So at 4, I have Ohio State. Urban Meyer coming back, of course. This team handled a very good TCU team. that we could see come back and challenge Oklahoma for the Big 12. So, no problem there putting Ohio State at 12. Clemson struggled a little bit against Georgia Southern, finally got things going in the second half. But overall, I have them at 3. They're just a solid team and easily the favorites in the ACC.
Number 2, I got Georgia. They're a very, very solid team. They started the year number 3. Definitely deserve to be number 2. I don't think they'll get the number 1 spot, but they'll definitely have a spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, at number 2, I also have Georgia. Jake Fromm is shown why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I mean, he's completed 83% of his passes the past 2 games, which is really good. I mean, you can't say much more than that, but he has weapons all around him on offense, and they also have a great defense as well.
Yeah, they've reloaded on defense. Of course, I should say that I have Georgia at 2, like you guys, and a byproduct of that is we all have the same number 1. We'll get to that in a moment. So Georgia, just an absolute. If Alabama doesn't have the best running backs in the country, then Georgia does.
Mm-hmm.
Holyfield, Heron, Swift, DeAndre Swift. He's a dark horse Heisman candidate if he can put up some good numbers. And yeah, as you said, their defense reloaded. They also have some really talented wide receivers that are getting open for Jake Fromm, getting good separation, getting lots of yards after the catch if you'll look up their highlights.
The rack.
Yeah.
Like I say in Madden.
Racks.
Getting that. So at number 1, we all have Alabama. I mean, they're just dominating everyone. It's no surprise. I mean, they're clearly the best team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
No opposition.
They have
really.
been for a while.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't see really. I mean, especially with Auburn's loss, and if they can handle Auburn and LSU in November, they're easily going to be the top team in the country, and then of course be 1 in the playoffs. So with that, we're going to move on to our week 4 college football picks. First up, we have a game that was teased two weeks back in episode 4. So Florida Atlantic at 16 Central Florida, Friday at 6 o'clock on ESPN.
I have UCF. I mean, your Florida Atlantic team.
I don't want to hear about it.
I mean, they haven't slowed down. They haven't slowed down since their undefeated season, which the national championships. We've talked about this, how it goes down the line, right? With
Yeah. Have we talked about this on air?
I don't
So
think
you know
so.
what? Let me just do this really quick. So Nebraska lost to Troy this past Saturday, and Troy is a really, really solid team. Of course, we mentioned they went 11-3 last year. They defeated LSU in Baton Rouge last year. LSU defeated Auburn on the Plains, and then Auburn has defeated Alabama last year in the Iron Bowl. But in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Superdome, UCF defeated Auburn. So
let's get a
which
recount on
which
those
of the
playoff
two
votes.
supposed national champions beat Auburn? The answer is UCF. So I don't really know who's the true national
Yeah.
champion.
UCF, of course.
But back to this. I think,
What a tangent.
I mean, Mackenzie Milton in this offense, I just think they're going to light up Florida Atlantic. I don't think it's going to be close at all.
Yeah, all right. So let's fly through this one real quick. I've got UCF.
Yeah, I got UCF. I had hopes for FAU, but those hopes died when
Marco
Oklahoma
really did.
pounded them.
You know, it's okay. They'll build the program. The lane train will keep on rolling. So next up, we have number 22 Texas A&M at number 1 Alabama, Saturday 2:30 on CBS.
I have Alabama. Like I said before, Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts, they can switch out. One of them struggles, the other one goes in. They have, probably the best all-around offense. Just their offensive line, their wide receivers, the running backs, best in the nation. And I think Texas A&M is going to struggle against that offense, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. So,
Yeah, that's the only thing I'd say. I definitely am picking Alabama 100%. But this is a Texas A&M team that could have won and definitely looked like they belonged with Clemson. They're immensely underranked right now, and they're definitely not going to drop. And with the way they play, I wouldn't be surprised if they climb in the rankings even after a loss, especially if they hang with Alabama. So you got to watch out for this Texas A&M team. We'll see. Maybe if Alabama blows them out, does this really diminish Clemson's win in a close one against the Aggies?
Not really. I don't think it will, but my pick, Alabama, enough said.
Okay, next up we have number 7 Stanford at 20 Oregon, Saturday at 7 o'clock on ABC.
I have Stanford, and the reason why is because I think Bryce break out of his slump that he's been in, or at least it seems it's been a slump. Because we all thought he was going to. Did we do a Heisman prediction before the season?
No, we didn't, but I'm sure a lot of
I th-
people think that
'Cause
Bryce Love
he
was
was
the
probably
favorite.
my number one, yeah. And so I think that he'll prove to us why he should be on the Heisman list this week, and that Stanford offense is really good. But, I mean, Oregon's not just a trash team either, so I think it could be I'm picking it as a field goal game difference.
Yeah, this is a really close one, and this is one of those really fun matchups in college football where you get the fullbacks and tight ends and real tough, hard-nosed football of Stanford against the slot receivers, the jet sweeps of Oregon, and that speed. It's one of those fun
Speed
juxtapositions. Speed does kill with Oregon, but not this Saturday. I think Stanford is going to have more muscle and more strength, and you said it. Bryce Love, I'm saying he's going for 150 and 2 touchdowns.
All right.
I got Stanford with my pick. Bryce Love's coming off the injury. I think he'll light it up against Oregon. Oregon will probably have a little bit of home field advantage, just getting the crowd into it, get a couple big stops. But I think Stanford's going to pull it out.
All right. We're going to keep on rolling here with number 18, Wisconsin at Iowa, Saturday at 7:30 on Fox.
I have Wisconsin. They did. They lost to a solid BYU team, which surprised me. I
Yeah.
didn't think they were going to be that good this year. But they're going to go play in Iowa, which is another Big Ten team that they'll have to play this year. And I don't think this Wisconsin team's as good as we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. They've struggled, it looks like. I mean, they lost to BYU. But I think Wisconsin can pull it out because Iowa's not that good of a team either, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think either of these teams are as good as people are making them out to be. Clearly, Wisconsin really struggled. And we'll see, because they struggled against New Mexico getting things going and with the other teams they played. So we'll see if they're actually a legitimate threat. And Iowa struggled against Iowa State, couldn't exactly get things going against Northern Illinois. So I don't really think they're a true threat. But what this really brings up to me, if you go through one of those webs of teams we already went through earlier. So if you look, BYU beat Wisconsin, but BYU was beat in a late-night ESPN matchup by the Cal Bears. So, and Cal is still undefeated. They're 3-0. They're unranked. They play Oregon next week. So that could be a really big matchup because
That'll be a fun
California
game
is
to
under the
watch.
radar. They're still a team that we don't know what they could bring to the table. So, it's a really interesting game. So on to the very last game, of course. It's a late night ESPN one, 9:30 on Saturday. Arizona State at number 10, Washington.
I have Washington. They have a lot of experience on both sides of the ball, and their defense has only allowed 3 touchdowns in the 3 games that they've played this year. But I like Arizona State. I like what they're doing with the program. I like Herm Edwards, but I don't think they'll beat Washington this weekend.
Yeah, this is a playoff eliminator. Even though a lot of teams don't see Arizona State as a playoff team, Washington definitely is. And that, they both have losses. Obviously, Washington's to Auburn is a lot better than that heartbreaking loss Arizona State had to San Diego State on Saturday night. I think Washington is going to gut this one out. Even though the Sun Devils beat the Huskies last year, I think Washington is going to win a slug-out game. It's going to be like 24-17. It's going to be really close. Colton?
I got Washington with my pick here. I think Jake Browning will have a really good game. I love what Herm Edwards is doing with Arizona State. They're definitely going to be a really solid team this year, but Washington's going to pull this one off.
All right, so that's it for our college football coverage. Colton, thanks for joining us next week. We'll see you next week in the crazy world of college football.
It was great to be here.
All right, Easton, let's move on to Dude of the Week. So this week I have Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who went for 23 of 28 passing for 326 yards and 6 touchdowns. Mahomes did this just one day before his 23rd birthday, and he's just his third NFL start, honestly. And this is just crazy. I mean, there's very few words for what he did.
Yeah, man. We've never really seen that. I mean, like, what is it?
6 touchdowns, as we said, most since Drew Brees did it in
7
2013. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's going to get you a win if your defense can
barely,
hold.
though.
Barely,
42 to 37 in a shootout, of course. But Mahomes is really something special, I think.
Yeah, he's a great arm. He's more accurate than I thought he was going to be when he came into the league. And I think one day he can be one of the top-tier quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, especially with the way Andy Reid runs his offense, he's just always going to have another wrinkle to put in there, and Mahomes is always going to have a guy open, and he's got really talented guys. Travis Kelce, second best tight end in the league. Tyreek Hill's the fastest guy, and just a ton of weapons. Sammy Watkins, DeAnthony Thomas. So, honestly, really great. So, moving on to our last thing here, we have Jimmy Butler, who has 3 preferred trade destinations in the NBA. He has the Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Clippers. So this leads me to say, which team can put together the most enticing trade offer for Butler?
I mean, I think they all can put up a decent trade, but I don't know how much they're willing to give up because Tom Thibodeau has already come out and said that he doesn't want to even trade Jimmy Butler. And with the teams knowing that he's going to be a free agent next year, there's always the question of how much do we want to give up if he's just going to leave us. But the reason he chose these 3 teams is because they can all offer him a max extension next summer. So I want him to go to the Knicks because I'd like to see him. If he goes to the Knicks, I think they make the playoffs in the East. I don't know what you think about that, but if Porzingis comes back, you don't think so?
Here's the thing, though. You hit on that. Like, what are teams going to be willing to give up? But also, I mean, you just have to look at the teams that he's going to be on. Well, first of all, also he wants to go there because they're big markets, and he wants some endorsements. But also, you have to look at what those teams would have to give up. I don't think the Timberwolves are trading him to the Knicks without getting Porzingis back. I mean, maybe Hardaway and some draft picks, but I don't think so. The Clippers, you could offer Lou Will. I don't know what else everywhere. You can really give up.
Lou Will's going to be the first person to be on every single team. I
Probably.
swear.
Very close to doing that. Brooklyn, they're still at right. They're still out of picks.
I mean, you're going to have to trade D'Angelo Russell or Spencer Dinwiddie,
I think the Nets can put together the most enticing trade offer.
I think they get Crabbe, Dinwiddie, and pick, maybe 2 picks.
Yeah.
That might be enough.
And then when you've cleared up the cap space, he can bring one of his friends along that he wants to play with,
I think the Clippers are going to be the team, though, because they have room for 2 max players next year.
And they're a team that's going to want to make moves.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler has come out and said that he wants to go to the Clippers because they can have 2 max players next year. And I don't really see why he'd want to go to the Nets. It's just the Nets.
They're in the East.
Yeah. I mean,
it's safer there.
That's true, but he's gonna hate that 1 year that he's there until he gets somebody next to him.
Okay, so we kind of hinted at this. Why would he want to leave Minnesota? They have one of the best young cores in the NBA, and they're in a really good spot right now.
Mm-hmm. He and Karl-Anthony Towns don't really get along, it sounds like. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns, he's not a good defender. Let's just be honest. He's not a good defender, so he just doesn't get along with him. That Andrew Wiggins is lazy. Andrew
Wiggins is a letdown.
Yeah. He's
Everyone's
not a bust, but he's not good.
Everyone keeps saying
like everybody thought
the Timberwolves are the next best, or they're the best young team in the NBA. They're going to be the next great team. But they've been saying that for 3 years now. They just only made the playoffs as the 8th seed. When is this finally going to happen? And I think you're right. Jimmy Butler is seeing this start to happen. I think he's going to get out of the burning building before it crashes.
Timberwolves. I mean,
the Timberwolves are
they got
turning
Luol
into a
Deng.
mess.
They just need Joakim Noah now.
Yeah, they could get Joakim Noah.
He's gonna get bought out. It sounds like.
They could get him for a minimum.
Yeah,
that's what I'd pay for Joakim Noah.
I don't think I'd pay that much.
I don't know. Honestly, in my reasoning, I don't know if this is what Jimmy Butler's thinking, but if I'm Jimmy Butler, as both a chance to make the playoffs and of course an extension of that, the finals, but also a chance to be an all-star and on the All-NBA teams, you got to get to the East.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get to the high ground.
I'd like to see him go to the Lakers, though, but he's come out and said that he doesn't want to go there because of LeBron.
Do they have the cap space to do that? They don't have. I mean, they could trade for him, but next summer. But do the Lakers? I mean, is that because this is going to have to go through LeBron, right? Yeah. Is that the guy they really want? Is that the guy he wants?
I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, that would be a pretty
Why
great
don't you ask
team.
him?
I can't yet. Not famous enough. Guys, make it happen. Follow MCJ Sports on Instagram. And I think that's all we have for today's show. We're just going to end on that shameless plug. So remember to please like this video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Me and Easton will see you next week.
Peace out.